I go next to Gbubemi Atimomo this morning. Good morning, Gbubemi.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos.
With the tone set already, we've got one more thing to do before we look into the papers. Let's get the listener to know that they can be part of the conversation at some point when we said it all. Now, on the phone line, 0809 That would be on WhatsApp only as messages reacting to any of the newspaper headlines we're treating this morning. That said, Mr. C, let's pick up this space with the Punch newspaper as we go to see this headline screaming. ASUU, that's the Academic Staff Union of Universities in Nigeria, parents protest as more varsities hike fees. That's the Punch newspaper reacting. And from the discussions we've had so far, it would look like since the advent of it is gone, Otilo, there's been a ripple effect, just sweeping across every facet. Everybody is tightening the belt. Even the universities, they want to pass on the burden to the students.
Okay, thank you, Mas. And it's not really the season of everything it's gone. It's actually the season of renewed hope and everything that comes with it. Now, the economy has always been in a dire state, and some of the measures taken by the current administration have exacerbated the already fragile situation. And millions of Nigerians are truly feeling the pinch because there's been a lot of adjustments, belt tightening. It's really horrific, to put it very mildly. Now we're faced with a very interesting conundrum. In the education sector, particularly in the tertiary sector, we find that a number of universities, national and state-owned, are increasing the cost paid by students. And naturally, we have ASUU, we have the parents, and we have the students all protesting. Now, here is the real dilemma. Here's the crux of the matter. If we are to maintain the current standard, which by all intents and purposes is not optimal enough or it's not good enough, money is required to maintain it. The same ASUU has been complaining repeatedly over the years that its members are poorly paid, that research allowances, grants, and the like are not forthcoming, and that their salaries are not reviewed. Do they realize or do they remember that part of their salaries will come from the cost paid by students? Two, as we make more advances in the body of knowledge across all the disciplines, right? New textbooks are required. In the sciences, new equipment is required. In the tech space, you have to get new software, new hardware. All of these things require money. The schools need more facilities. The tech fund cannot do it alone. The private sector have done their bit, but they need to do more. So, what do we really want? The old setup simply isn't working, and long term will not get us anywhere. Now, it is crystal clear, even to the blind, that the fees or the costs have to go up. I think the issue here now is the quantum, because you can't jump from 28,000, for example, to 190,000. That is a very steep jump. So
why would you didn't from the discuss from so far what you've laid out, I wasn't even expecting any consideration now, because you've said with the realities it is obvious to keep up. So if it is from 28 to this amount, definitely there has to be an increase.
No, Omas, I was explaining why an increase is required. So now it is the quantum of the increase and how you phase it over time that determines whether the people will accept it readily or there'll be continued resistance. Now, we mustn't also forget the naira has really fallen against the dollar.
What has dollar to do with school fees back home? I mean, if I were going abroad to study, then I know I'm needing pounds and I'm needing dollars, but this is domestic. So if you're bringing dollar in here, it's like the woman selling veggies across the street, across me, tells me, begins to mention dollar.
Okay, so let me explain. We're an import dependent country, right? So a majority of the things we consume in this country are imported. And to import these things, we require foreign exchange, specifically the US dollar. So, and a lot of things are tied to that increase. Anytime the naira depreciates against the dollar, watch the prices of the various foodstuffs in the market, watch the prices of goods and services. They take
that is man inflicted now, because ideally, looking at it from that point, you said the service, it's because some things really is not about the US dollar, it's about greed and being inconsiderate. There will be many dropouts from the universities as the way it's going right now.
Almost, we're already sitting on a powder keg in the sense that millions of Nigerians finish from secondary school every year, and only a fraction of that number gets into the university.
So it's best they shouldn't even go to school there.
No, I'm not saying that. Or the polytechnics. Now, we already have an army of millions of Nigerians. We're not sure exactly what it is they're doing. Now, if more Nigerians have to drop out now, we're in a very serious situation. And let's not forget, take the medical field, for example. We've seen the mass emigration of doctors, nurses, and auxiliary workers in that field. And the coordinating minister the other day was saying there are plans to replace those numbers. How do you replace those numbers if the cost of fees continue to rise astronomically? Now, phase these fees over a period of time and give consideration to those who are already there so they can finish. Now, for people who are yet to start, they need to know very clearly this will be the cost of getting the education. Because very quickly, Nigerians will travel abroad and pay more than these amounts to get quality education. Finally, Nigerians will pay once they can see the value in what they're getting.
Okay, it's the verdict will be out there for the listener and for everyone out to respond to. So let's just let it slide and let's get on to our next paper. Gbubemi Atimomo, I'll be letting you see this next paper, the Vanguard, and it screams with the headline, 600 million US dollar trapped funds. We're heading to the aviation sector now. President Tinubu directs the CBN. Okay, that's your story. Okay, so aviation. Gbubemi, let's move on to the next story. Mr. C will come for aviation. Let's see this story, which is yours now. What was it? Okay, good. Governor Sanwo-Olu swears in 37 commissioners, and that's a comprised commissioners and special advisors on Wednesday. So this puts to bed the back and forth, the basbos, rejigging, the revised list, and now it's time for the Gosans to see work, right?
Okay, so like you said, this puts to bed all the action we had seen over the last few weeks. If we recall, the governor had sent a list of names to the State House of Assembly to confirm as commissioners. The House of Assembly had put together a committee to screen the nominees, and they had rejected, I think, about 13 of them. Some of those people were previous commissioners from the last administration of the governor, and they had given reasons to say that there were certain criteria that they had looked out for that those people did not meet. And then they gave the governor another opportunity to present a list of names, to which the governor sent some new names, including some names of those that were previously rejected, and the committee screened them again and approved some, but still didn't take on some. So some of the ones that weren't approved were like Sam Ngube and Folashade Adefisayo. We see though that they finally also approved people like Benga Motosho, who is now the Commissioner for Information.
Professor
Akinbayomi, Commissioner for Health. So finally, we thank God that they've come to the point where this has come to an end. Lagos now has a set of commissioners who are ready for work. So it's time for us to see what plans the commissioners do have for us in terms of their agenda for the next 4 years. We always say that government is a continuum. There are things that some of the previous commissioners had started. We hope that the new commissioners will go on with some of those plans. One notable thing I noted was that the Ministry of Education has now been split into two. So now we have the Ministry of Basic Education. Let me just check. The Ministry of Basic Education and the Ministry of Tertiary Education. Hopefully this will also give attention to education, which is a very important issue in Nigeria. Addressing from what Mr. C had said, looking at the increase in tertiary education school fees. You know,
Yes.
there's so many issues down to even basic education, and them splitting it into two ministries, we hope will aid the government to give proper attention to each sector.
Okay, thanks very much for that update now, Gbubemi, as you pick up the next paper. But let's get listeners to know that they can be part of the conversation on 0809-444-0981. They could just send in WhatsApp messages only. Mr. C, let's get back to aviation. As we were talking about aviation a while ago, and that's because President Bola Tinubu is given the directive already. 600 million US dollars trapped funds. President Tinubu directs the CBN to meet with the foreign airlines to address this and solve it. Let's see, this is more like a fallout from the UAE visit on the way from New Delhi from the G20 summit. And so how soon do you see us putting this to bed, and then let's see how people begin to fly easily between these two countries?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Anas. So, looking at this story, the first thing that jumps out is the current president has directed the CBN to create a platform for quarterly reconciliatory meetings with foreign airlines to address the backlog of their funds. I don't know what that means. They have $600 million of their funds trapped in Nigeria waiting for repatriation.
Mm.
What are you still reconciling? The exact quantum of the debt is known. Rather, what you should be addressing is how quickly are you planning to pay them? So, what is the point in hauling all of them in for a meeting, speak all the English, and at the end, the money is still trapped? In principle, this is a good idea, but if the only thing that will come out of this meeting is more English, it doesn't help the country. Now, the Honorable Minister for Aviation was at some conference, and he did declare the intentions of this current administration with regards to the aviation sector.
Mm.
And part of what he said was that the government is willing to give tax holidays to current and new entrants into the aviation sector. And they're looking to develop what we call aerotropolis. Now, what is an aerotropolis for the benefit of listeners? This is a region that has been developed around an airport. Now, this is also all well and good. It's just that there are no details. So, an aerotropolis in Nigeria, what airport are you looking at? Because the airport in Ikeja, the area is already built up. In Abuja, almost the same thing. So, they need to identify the aerotropolis, and then they're also looking to set up maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities in Nigeria. We already have one, it's in Ikeja. But these are broad desires.
Yes.
Again, no timelines with which we can determine whether they're on track, they're behind schedule, or they're right on time.
I want to call your attention to saying this might only result in speaking more English, but this is just also bouncing back off you to say, so would you rather they speak some more French rather than English? But then I'm just going to ask the question. Yes, it's been acknowledged the funds are trapped, but if we're going to pay these funds and it's going to create some kind of discomfort for our economy, talking with the CBN, who manages the banker of the government and banker's banker, they should be able to structure what is called phased method of probably not paying all of it at once, but probably structuring it out in phases.
Yeah, I agree. I never said that they should pay everything at once, but we must remember the things they are seeking to do in the aviation sector require the input of foreign partners.
Yes.
And these foreign partners will not come in if you cannot explain to them or show them the route through which the money will be repatriated. So again, in principle, on paper, these are good plans. How they're going to be achieved or the timeline within which they're going to be achieved remains to be seen.
Thank you, Mr. C. Next, Gbubemi, if you're ready for this one. I see the messages are in already, but after this paper, the Vanguard will get to some of the messages. So keep the messages coming on to 0809-444-0981. Let the messages come. So, Gbubemi, the Vanguard newspaper here is saying, Mile 2 Apapa Expressway hold LASMA, the police and others accountable. That's the truck drivers are the ones crying out. And this route has been very notorious for gridlocks and for its state. So, what exactly is going on in this axis? And can we get to that point where we address it and put it pay to this?
Okay, like you had said, the problem of that region has been ongoing for many, many years. In fact, I remember I used to pass through there to work at some point, maybe about 10 years ago, more than that, and it was a problem. Now it's much, much worse. Unfortunately, one of the major reasons is the state of the roads. At the it got to the point where people would sit in traffic for hours, which was exactly what even happened yesterday, which is why we're reading the story. And for some certain reason, the roads had not been properly repaired. So, the port is there,
Yes.
there are tank farms there, so you can imagine the amount of traffic that goes on within that region. Now, so what some of the drivers have claimed is that they've been extorted by these law enforcement officials, last mile police, and they keep settling them so that they can park on the roads. Now, parking on the roads obviously is one of the causes of why the roads are so bad, and added to that, there's double parking, which means that there's little space for traffic to flow, which is why there's so much gridlock in that area. Now, the drivers are saying that, yes, since we've settled these officials, we have the right to park there. There's nothing that can be done,
Yes.
And in their own wisdom, that's what they believe. If that is the case, we can probably understand why law enforcement would find it hard to enforce traffic rules there, because that means that they're being complicit if that is the case. Like I said, there's also the fact that the road is bad and the road has not been properly rehabilitated in, how many years. That contributes to that as well. So, at this point in time, we say it all the time, and it's a federal government area. Essentially, we say it all the time that federal government should give priority to that region, primarily because of tin can ports,
Yes.
because of the tank farms and all of that, and how significant the business activities are to the country. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I don't know what it will take to make that happen.
Gbubemi, please help me speak to this, the attitude of some of these tanker drivers or probably truck drivers. Do you think there is a set of law for us regular commuters and another set of law, which let's say they're even above the law, to even talk to them, to get to behave in a certain way?
Well, obviously, there will be no consequences for bad behavior. That's why, they can feel entitled to their behavior. And if truly they are settling the law enforcement officials, then we can understand why, they feel entitled to, behave anyhow on those roads.
Okay, so that takes me to the. You want to chime
So
in?
very quickly, that particular area has continued to prove a problem area. The immediate past vice president did visit the area, did give directives, he gave marching orders, and here we still are. No surprises that truck drivers behave the way they do. If you paid for a service, definitely you're going to demand for that service.
Okay. So that takes us to the messages waiting for our attention this morning. If you just joined in, you're on to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. So let's get this one in from Anthony Francis. Can someone tell me what 6 cups of rice and a bottle of groundnut oil as palliative will do in all this? Some students may not even have the transport fare to go back to school in the first place. How much more paying such high fees? Please, no talk about dollar in these matters. Are they having foreign lecturers? That's Tony from Marine Beach saying that one. That's in response to the hike in fees and the protests. We've seen Unilag students have been out on the streets, for about 2 running now, to say it should go back to what it is. Else, most of them will not be coming back, or they might drop out. That I can say. Let's move on to Benaig Aigbogie from Amuwo, Dofin, Lagos. Better to pay high tuition in varsities, that's universities, than subject our undergraduates to the usual ASUU strikes resulting from lack of funding. My son is in secondary school, pays far more fees than my daughter in a federal university. Free education should be at lower levels. That's a Ben Aigboje from Amuwo Dofin, more like a counter to Francis's message there. Now I've had this one in, Dada Ogba says, okay, we have dollarized everything. Sure, some of the ministers or senators earned in dollar. It's greed. Is everything procured in dollars? When everything crashes and nowhere to borrow loans, we will all sit up and tell ourselves at least some truth if we cannot tell the whole truth. Next, I've got this one in here. Who's this one? Let's see. Chima from Surulere. I'm so disappointed. Why can't the federal government increase funding for education? Okay. And Olale sent in a message here, which he says, Mr. C, we need to get university education right in Nigeria. The increment has nothing to do with tuition now. Nigerians are jackbuying using cheap inputs to claim higher wages abroad. So it is time to pay the inputs cost for the output you are selling abroad. Importantly, universities are not run the way we run them in Nigeria. Our universities should start attracting private sector funding so that they will fulfill their mandate as research institution, not fact beggars. That's federal allocation. That's what it meant. Education is not cheap globally. So why should we continue to have it cheap and also have regular strikes? Olale consent in that one. Yinka Bolu pops by with a message here. Says, okay, as usual, I'll blame ASUU for everything because it begs the question, what exactly are they teaching in these schools? The undergrads can't use their head. A certain private university in Nigeria here has about 10,000 population and school fees as high as a million naira. By rough calculation, gives more than 10 billion naira in revenue. And it mentions Unilag in this question as Yinka Bolu. On the other hand, has 55,000 population and has a fee of 28,000 naira. Rough calculation puts at 1.54 billion naira in revenue. The fees should be jacked up by 6 times to meet up that 10 billion naira, which I think is fair enough. Yet we want to get world-class education. It is not going to happen. Some folks that can't sell their properties all in a bid to go abroad. Yes, that some persons can do that to go get MSc abroad. So why can't they pay these small fees back home here? How hard is it for students to understand? So I ask again, what are these students being taught in schools that they can't properly reason? Yinka Bolo would not have any of those socialist kind of mentality and welfareist idea. This is the 21st century and it seems like capitalism has come to stay. Mr. C, quarterly, Mr. C, that's what the report said. We must resist the urge to always criticize everything the government has to say. That's Rexy from Port Harcourt. Okay, so let's take a break from this. A quick one, Gbubemi, because we need to get to the next paper.
Okay, I just wanted to add on education. Tuition fees have not been increased.
No, they don't pay tuition.
They don't pay tuition exactly. So what has been increased are all the other associated fees, around education.
Hostel.
No one has said.
Have you been to hostels to see what am I paying? So what's even the quality?
Yeah, so no one has said that fees should not, all these costs should not be increased. Okay. What we have said is that it is unreasonable to pay 28,000 in one term, in one session, and then the next session you're paying almost 5 times that. There should be a phased increase in that.
How can I leave this? I go home for a semester and I'm not sure I'm coming back because what I'm budgeting to come back to pay is gone. Where am I getting that from?
There are lots of indigent students who will not be able to afford these things.
Every single Nigerian will place a premium on what he or she holds dear. And when they hold it dear, they will move the heavens and the earth to fund it. Relax.
Hook up, right? Anyway, moving on. Let's just go. Gbubemi, this paper is for you. The Punch newspaper. Federal government predicts heavy rainfall. I guess that's what Mr. C. That's your paper. Federal government predicts heavy rain flood in 48 towns. Run with this one in about a minute because we're seeing the final strike.
So very quickly on this, the federal government has predicted that 13 states will experience severe rains and possibly severe flooding, and they've identified 48 towns. Now, this is a very good step from the federal government, and they've drawn the attention of the people to the possible risk in staying where they are. And a lot of these people are staying in flood-prone areas, riverbank, plains and sides, and the like. Now, the question is, beyond this warning, what's the plan? Are the state governments cooperating with the federal government? Are the state governments ensuring that these people actually leave those places until the rain subside? Because if they don't do that, then we're going to suffer not only a loss of human lives, which is purely avoidable,
Yes.
but there'll be destruction of property. And beyond that, the states now need to sort out their urban planning and development processes. People should not be allowed to build in flood-prone areas on the banks of rivers and the like.
Mr. C, this even gets scarier when we see societies where the urban planning is at par. You can't even fault it, and we've seen how flood and nature has made them look, caught them off guard. So when you now mirror that conversely to us, are we? Do you think we would get the mercy of the nature when it eventually choose to come at us?
No, we won't. If we don't get our processes right, we don't get our procedures right, nature will not have mercy on us. That's the law of life. So look at Venice. Venice is a city on the
Yes.
on the sea, on the river, and they don't experience the nonsense we experience. They don't lose lives because of water. We need to start getting our processes right, and more importantly, people now have to stop paying the consequences for a failure or abdication of duties assigned to them.
And see what even happened in Libya a while just on Sunday here, where an entire city was washed into the sea. 5,000 bodies still counting. Well, let's get into some more messages because we're really out of time. But then it's been a great time having you guys here. But let's see some more messages. A meeting up towards payment must hold. This one that Mr. C is coming with pessimistic as usual. Let's please cut this guy some slack and be more positive. That's William coming for your juggler this morning. Chibike comes in and said the fees hike is very understandable and frankly unavoidable, but they should have applied it only to those who are enrolling newly. Okay, for that is jam bites now, not the staylights as they say back in the days. Abbas Oladipo says the Mile 2 road has been fixed and construction is even ongoing at the corridor, which is why there is hold up. But the main problem is with the law enforcers who extort the drivers and allow them to park on the roads. So revenue goes somewhere. Is it to the state or some private pockets? That's the question for us this morning. They have jettisoned the call up done. That's the call up system some months ago. Next, I find a message from, who would I find here? I'm looking, Victor Shegun says, the government can design a payment structure or loan such that students repay. That's in the pipeline. I thought they said it last time, but we're waiting for that to start up. After graduating and getting a job, more like it's done in France. What are you whispering about, guys? Let me hear it also. I want to be part of it. Then I've got this one, Dami from Ikeja. Dear Mr. C, so long a letter, that's what the tone is. You and I are potential candidates for moving if people can't move up in life. So you have a comrade at, well, anyway, moving on. Idima Puza from Surulere says, government giving peanut palliatives to deceive the masses instead of using money to better all Nigerian life, but repairing our refineries. God is seeing all the distance, all at a distance, that's what he said. Saken comes in with this message. Please, what's the update on the visa ban lifting? Mr. C, you should know, you have an update on that one.
So the update is the initial news was not correct, and what is more likely is that discussions may have started but have certainly not been concluded.
Okay, thanks, Mr. C. Yinka Bolu, don't they have access to student loan? I was talking to a student who is also protesting the increment. I noticed she was using an iPhone 13. Which for the life of me doesn't add up for a student. I asked her how come, because me that earn salary not using such. She said, what if it's hook up? Oh, so hook up she did. I responded, is it a crime to do hook up and pay your school fees? Yinka Bolu, how would you come on a Thursday morning on this one like this? This is hard.
You led him down that alley.
Okay, so let's get Bob Surulere comes in with a message here. Subsidy was removed with palliative promise while waiting for palliatives exchange. When it goes on, exchange rate was unified, followed by increment in school fees, and inflation is hitting the roof. I don't think the government is considering the poor, and these policies can be phased or mitigate the impact on the populace. Bob from Surulere, and that's our last message this morning.
So very quickly,
in last 5 seconds.
So that the quarterly meetings, there was no mention of any intention to start paying.
Yeah. Okay.
So I invite everyone to read the story.
Okay. So, Gbubemi Atimomo, thank you so much for your time as usual. Thank you so much.
Jimmy.
Thanks. And Mr. C, I hope you fix your flat tires along in the course of the day. Thank you so much for being here.
That was a while back. There are no flat tires.
Okay, sorry,
Yes.
my bad. I just have a tendency to recall things. It's
Focus-
called throwback.
Focus on the
Throwback
present.
Thursday.
Focus on the present.